Getting deactivated from Uber is one of the scariest things that can happen to a driver. One day you're logged in, you're making money, and the next day you open the app and it says your account has been put on hold. No warning, just locked out. Now I want to be clear about what this video is and what it isn't. I'm not here to help anybody get their account back. That's not what we're doing today. What I'm here to do is break down the real reasons drivers get deactivated, because there's a lot of misinformation out there, and more importantly, what you can do right now so that you never end up in that situation in the first place. Because here's the thing, most deactivations, they're preventable, and most drivers don't think about it until it's already too late. Before I even get into the real triggers, I need to address something because I see this come up constantly in driver Facebook groups, on Reddit, everywhere. People think that your acceptance rate is going to get you deactivated. Now let me be straight with you, it's not. Uber's very clear that in most markets, acceptance rating is not a requirement to stay on the platform. They might send you a notification about it, they might send you a little warning, but your account is not going to go anywhere because you're only taking trips that you want to take. That is literally one of the selling points of being an independent contractor. You have the right to decline. Same thing with your cancellation rating. Now, cancellation rating matters more than your acceptance rating. And I'll be honest about that. And it's something that you want to keep an eye on. If it climbs really high, you may get a warning from Uber. But a warning is not a deactivation. There's a difference. You're going to get notified. You're going to have a window to correct it, and if you're a reasonable driver operating in good faith, you're not going to lose your account over that. So if somebody told you that you're about to get deactivated because of your acceptance rating is 40%, that's not accurate. Don't panic over that. Now, what you actually need to pay attention to, that is a completely different conversation. Alright, before we get into specific triggers, let's actually define what we're talking about. Because a lot of drivers throw that word deactivation around loosely, and they don't actually know what it means from Uber's standpoint, and the definition actually matters. According to Uber's own platform agreement and community guidelines, deactivation is a loss of access to the Uber marketplace, either partially or completely. That's the official language they use. It's not fired, and it's not terminated. It's loss of access. And why? Because Uber doesn't classify drivers as employees. You're an independent contractor, and your relationship with Uber is the access to their platform. When that access is removed, that's what deactivation means. Now, here's where it gets important. There are two completely different types, and most drivers don't know the difference. Type 1 is temporary suspension. This is when Uber puts a hold on your account while something is getting resolved. It's not permanent. Your account is essentially paused. This happens when things like an expired document that needs to be updated, a safety complaint that's being investigated, a background check that needs to be renewed. Uber literally calls this a hold or wait listing depending on the reason. In most cases, once you fix that underlying issue, your access is restored. Temporary suspensions can last anywhere from a few hours to several days depending on what's being looked at. Type 2 is permanent deactivation. This is the one that people are actually scared of, and for a good reason. This is when Uber formally terminates your access to the platform. It's a final decision. Under Uber's terms of service, they have the right to permanently deactivate your account without notice if they determine a material breach or violation has occurred. That's their exact contractual language. A material breach means something serious like a major safety incident, fraud, discrimination, or criminal conduct. This is not a suspension with a path back. This is done. And here's something a lot of drivers don't realize. According to Uber's own policy, they could put your account on hold and investigate without telling you exactly why, especially during safety investigations. They're not required to give you a heads up before they act. The community guidelines state that Uber may, quote, at its sole discretion, put a hold on your account or turn your account inactive until a review is complete. That's straight from their terms. And when you wake up and the app won't let you go online, you need to understand which category you're in, because those are two very different situations with two very different outcomes. And one more thing on the definition. Uber technically describes this as loss of access to the marketplace. What that means practically is that you are no longer a partner on their platform. You didn't get fired. You had a contract to access their app, and that contract was terminated. That distinction actually matters legally in some states, and that is a whole nother conversation. Bottom line, deactivation equals no access. Temporary means it can be resolved. Permanent, it means it's over. Now let's talk about what actually causes it. There are essentially three categories of things that will actually get your account deactivated or suspended, and I want to break each one of these down. Number one, and this is a big one, is safety flags. This is the number one cause of permanent deactivation on Uber, and it moves fast. If a passenger reports that you were driving under the influence, if there's a complaint that you were behaving in a threatening or inappropriate way, if someone accuses you of a serious incident, Uber doesn't wait around. They're going to suspend your account immediately while they investigate, and depending on what they find, that suspension can become permanent. And here's what drivers don't fully understand. These reports don't require proof on the passenger's end. Uber's policy is to investigate first and ask questions later. That's why your in-car camera, like a dash cam, is so important. Not just for accidents, but for protecting yourself against false reports. Because if something gets flagged, you have footage, well, you have something to work with. If you don't, it's your word against the passengers. Safety incidents are also the category where appeals are least likely to succeed. If Uber decides a serious safety incident occurred, that decision is often final. Number two, your star rating. Your passenger star rating actually matters, and there is a real threshold that you need to stay above. Generally speaking, Uber's minimum is around 4.6 stars, but it does vary by city. Below that threshold, your account is at risk. Now, the key word here is generally. You're not going to drop below 4.6 from one bad trip. You got to be consistently getting low ratings across a lot of rides for it to pull your average down that far. But if you're not paying attention, it can creep up on you. And unlike safety incidents, Uber does give you warnings here. They'll notify you when your rating is approaching that threshold. That notification is your signal to figure out what is happening. And there are patterns. Are passengers complaining about the same things? Number three is account and compliance issues. This one catches people off guard because it's not about how you're driving or how passengers rate you, it's administrative. Your driver's license expires. You get suspended until you upload a new one. You move to a new city or start operating in a different market, you may need to meet that market-specific vehicle requirements or a background check standard. Your vehicle registration lapses. Your insurance documentation isn't current. Your background check renewals get flagged. These are temporary suspensions. They're not permanent deactivations in most cases, but they will lock you out of the app until you resolve them. And the problem is a lot of drivers don't notice these things until they're already locked out and scrambling. Also worth mentioning, if you're involved in a serious incident while on the platform, you could trigger a review. If there's a vehicle damage reported by the passenger, that can trigger a review. These aren't automatic deactivations, but they will get Uber's attention. And here's something important to understand about how Uber communicates or sometimes doesn't communicate with you. For rating and some compliance stuff, you will get notifications. Uber does send in-app alerts when your rating drops towards that threshold or when there's a document that you need to update. A lot of drivers dismiss these and miss them entirely because they're scrolling past app notifications. Don't do that. These notifications are there to give you a whole window to fix something before it becomes a bigger problem. But for safety flags, you often don't get a warning. Your account just gets put on hold while they investigate. That's the one that can feel like it comes out of nowhere. And one thing Uber doesn't make obvious, and you often have to do the math yourself, the app shows you your rating and your cancellation rate, but it doesn't always tell you exactly how close to whatever threshold Uber has set for your market. That's information that you have to stay on top of. I've been driving for a long time and I've gotten plenty of notifications over the years, but I've never been deactivated. And a big part of that is just not ignoring the things that the app tells you. When something pops up, address it. What does this actually look like in practice? And what should you be doing to protect your account? Well, first, check your star rating regularly. Not obsessively, but regularly. Know where your threshold in your city is. And if you're at a 4.7 or a 4.8, you have a cushion. If you're sitting at a 4.62, you need to understand that one bad stretch could push you close. Stay aware of where you stand. Second is document everything. If you're in a situation where a passenger is acting up, if something unusual happens on a trip, note that trip ID and the time. And if you have dashcam footage, know how to access it. This isn't paranoia, this is just being smart. Uber doesn't always get it right during an investigation, and the drivers who have something to show are the ones who have the best outcomes. Third, stay on top of your documents and compliance. Put a reminder in your phone when your license expires, when your registration renews, and when your insurance needs to be updated. These aren't things to forget about. Getting locked out of the app because of expired documents is completely avoidable. And fourth, this is something the Gridwise data actually speaks about. If Uber is your only income source, that is a real vulnerability. According to the Gridwise annual gig mobility report, 24.3% of gig drivers were running more than one platform in 2025. If your whole income depends on one platform staying active, that is a vulnerability. Whether that's adding Lyft, running some DoorDash on the side, or building something else, having a backup actually matters. And speaking of your account metrics, if you're not using Gridwise already, it's worth looking at from a visibility standpoint. Being able to see your numbers in one place, see your earnings across platforms, see your trip data, see airport info, is exactly the kind of thing that helps you catch problems before they catch you. Look, deactivation is something most drivers treat like it can't happen to them until it does. And the reality is, drivers who get caught off guard are almost always the ones who weren't watching their account health, your star rating, your document compliance, and your safety habits behind the wheel. Those are things that actually matter, not your acceptance rating and not skipping a trip that you didn't want to take. So know the rules of the game, watch your numbers, and protect your account. If this was helpful, drop a like and subscribe to the Gridwise channel. We cover this kind of real driver information all the time. And drop a comment. I want to know, have you ever gotten a deactivation warning? And what did you do about it? Let's talk about it down below. Know your numbers and know your market.